So let's imagine a crazy scenario. How would I develop JWE2? Hello and welcome back to Tricolor Gaming with me, Fletcher. And in today's video, I'm going to be taking some inspiration from a video Evolution Square did last year, where she explained how she would develop Jurassic World Evolution 2 if she was in charge as the CEO of Frontier. Inspired by this interesting concept, I've decided to do the same experiment and think about how I would develop the game, offering a different perspective. Now, before we get started, what are the rules? In order to help guide my ideas, I came up with several important rules. Number 1, I'll be starting with the game in its current state, assuming a game state with all current DLC purchased as it is in May 2023. There will be no alterations to the game from its start to its current state. Rule number 2 is that I will be making all of my DLCs and updates things that I think are actually possible with the game. While there is a huge amount that we as players would like to see, such as placeable deep water or baby dinosaurs, I want to avoid any massive changes that would require huge overhauls to the game's engine or basic systems. Everything has to be doable not only on PC but on consoles. Rule number 3 is that the new DLCs and updates should consider not only those who play sandbox, but those who also like challenge modes and campaigns. And rule number 4, I will be assuming at least another year of development. In this, I'm going with 5 new DLCs split between 2 expansions, 2 packs, and 1 end of game life DLC to round it all off. That would leave us with 12 DLCs in total, 4 more than the original game. Now, with those rules clearly established, let's get started. Editing Fletcher here. I just wanted to clearly state that for this video, I have made use of Bing's AI image generator in order to create some of the images here, in order to provide a visual representation of some of the things I'm talking about. It was the best way for me to get some of the images of more obscure things that I'm going to be talking about. This video won't be monetized in any way, and I'm not claiming any of the AI work as my own, and where AI generated images are used, I'll make it very clear to you all. I just wanted a visual representation of some of the things I'm talking about. Right, on with the video. The first important moment on my mission to develop Jurassic World Evolution 2 would be the 30th anniversary of the Jurassic Park's original film release. In my eyes, this would naturally require an expansion, and also a free update like all the other DLC releases. Let's talk about the free update first. The free update would firstly fix the lacking animations currently in-game for pterosaurs and for aquatic creatures. The free update would feature 2 new animations for each aquatic in-game, a social friendly animation and an aggressive, less friendly animation. Pterosaurs would also get a walking animation added along with the same 2 types of animation. While I'm not going to go into extreme detail here about these animations, let me provide an example for an aquatic and a pterosaur. Kronosaurus would have a friendly social animation where they use their flippers on the surface to communicate to one another like how whales do. Their unfriendly social animation will have them circle each other underwater before one attempts to bite the other's flippers. Meanwhile, the Tapejara will have a friendly animation where they lift their heads in opposing directions, showing off their crests. Their unfriendly animation would be aggressive press-up-like movements at one another. Each pterosaur species would have a different percentage chance that they would walk around, with pterosaurs like the Quetzalcoatlus being more walky than other species. This would also serve as a test of this animation for future editions of other Asdarkid pterosaurs. As an additional animation set to be given to pterosaurs and aquatics, and this idea comes from Yum Yum on the Evolution Square Discord, is an animation where the animals will attempt to attack and damage the drone machines that move around their enclosures. Thank you Yum Yum for letting me use this in this video. In addition to these creature-based improvements, there would be new content in the form of decorations inspired by the 3 original movies. To start with, there would be a new decoration section in the list for vehicles with placeable versions of Ranger Jeeps, tour vehicles, choppers, and trucks in both clean and destroyed versions. These placeable decorations would also have lighting options like the current decorations with lights. There would also be another new type of decoration added called large decorations. These would be a series of much larger decorative structures, bigger than the current large fountain. There would be several large tiered planter variations, new tiered fountains, and some modern artistic sculptures with a dinosaur theme. This would also serve as a basis for future large aquatic decorations. Now then, with the free content added, let's talk about the expansion. Now, the 30th anniversary left me with a quandary, because a lot of the original movie and its content is already in game. However, in the end, I have come up with something. I present to you the Legend of Jurassic Park expansion DLC. This DLC will feature new species, new buildings, and a whole new campaign. Let's discuss the new campaign first. The new campaign will take what was done in the Return to Jurassic Park DLC from the first game and greatly expand upon it, reimagining it for the new game. The campaign will also bring back various features from the first game. The campaign will start before the events of Jurassic Park, using the existing Isla Sorna map adjusted slightly for the time period. You will work with John Hammond, Dr. Wu, and a recast Ray Arnold to set up initial dinosaur production facilities and cloning labs on the island. Part of this will also include the cloning of the very first dinosaur. The cloning of these first dinosaurs will have the player take part in a DNA minigame. During this phase, you will be tasked with creating stable clones of dinosaurs by completing their genomes with genetic material from present-day animals. Like the current genetic modification system, the things you add to the animal will alter its behavior. However, for this minigame, the effects will be a lot harder to balance and much more radical. This is to represent the difficulty of the task back in 1993. In order to add to this difficulty, you will have to experiment in order to determine what each type of additional genetic material actually did to the dinosaur. Dinosaurs might end up super aggressive, super sickly, or straight up diseased, or might even die altogether. The mission will be to effectively clone one of each of the main species for the island, ensuring that they survive. The next step of the campaign will see the player come to a new map, Isla Nublar 1994. This map will be a film accurate, or as close to it, recreation of the original park area from the movie. Set post events of the film, you will be tasked with repairing the park and trying to get it reopened. You will work alongside John Hammond, Dr. Wu, Alan Grant, Ian Malcolm, and Ellie Sattler to complete various tasks and missions to make the park a success. You will also expand the facilities on Isla Sorna, being able to switch from one island to another like the first game's campaign, and through the use of the transport boat feature from the Malta DLC, you'd be able to move the dinosaurs around more easily. This part of the campaign will also see you tackle ongoing sabotage attempts by Biosyn. These sabotage attempts will take the form of random events that the player will not be informed of, anything from power plant shutdowns to gates being jammed open. Players will need to keep a close eye on their parks to ensure this sabotage is detected and handled quickly. To assist with this, there will be a new building added, the Engineer Outpost. This will be a small garage-like structure with a single Jeep vehicle with its own skin. These Jeeps operate in a set area of effect and will automatically fix or correct any issues that they find. They will of course need supplies and can themselves be sabotaged or break down. Upon successfully completing this mission, the campaign will expand to 2 new maps. The first, a new map known as San Diego 95, another film-accurate recreation of the San Diego park represented in the Lost World. This map will be a much smaller area than the current map, however will feature a few special features. Firstly, you'll be working alongside Sarah Harding and Roland Tembo for this park, as well as the others, to first repair and complete the facilities, and then to make this park a success. The amphitheatre will function as a hotel and attraction for the park, removing the need for any hotel buildings and also providing income. The second map that would be added would be a new island map in the Canary Islands, where you will make a whole park from scratch. You'll be able to switch from map to map, share facilities and income, and transport dinosaurs using the transport boat. The Canary Island map would be a coastal beach-like map using the Mediterranean biome. A new feature of the campaign will be the public relations system. This would take the form of a public relations relationship meter operating a bit like the current contract system. Players would be able to take contracts to help improve the meter, but the meter would also reduce if things went wrong. For example, taking the wrong choices during random events or breakouts and guest injuries. If the meter reduced too low, the parks would be shut and the campaign failed. However, positive reputation would also provide benefits such as increased income, access to more dangerous species, and guests that were less likely to make complaints. This meter will be implemented during the 94 Nublar map and would be a feature that will remain through the campaign. The point of this would be to provide a dedicated challenge, the sort of thing that would be a side effect of the original Jurassic Park's issues. There would also be the option to add this new public relations meter to any sandbox gameplay should you want to play with it. What about the new buildings? Well, apart from the new engineer outpost, for the most part the current Jurassic Park building set is pretty well established. I would add some new variants of the viewing tower, replacing that horrible caged version with a new thatched open air version better matching the other attractions, and a new thatched version of the lagoon gallery. There would however be a few new structures. The first would be the addition of the Jurassic Park Rex fence, the angled fencing that we see in the movie surrounding the Rex pen. There would also be a new guest building called the Rest Area. This building is inspired by a similar structure to that in Jurassic Park Operation Genesis. The Rest Area will serve as a way of expanding the distance people will travel for food, drink, and without transport. Rest areas will provide basic food and drink services and will allow people to rest, making them less likely to complain about a park's transport rating. There will be different designs of rest area for each of the eras in game. Rest areas can also be slightly personalized, with amenity-like settings allowing for different central decorations, from fountains to statues, planters, and amber statues. We would also have a new transport. This would be the Ranger Transport. This would function like the monorail, but instead of using trains, it would be a small jeep station that would then have jeeps moving along a route you select, mirroring what we see in the first movie. The jeeps would not be able to pass into enclosures due to safety concerns, but the route allows transport in both directions, meaning you wouldn't need to be making loops. This building would come with era-specific versions for sandbox play. The other new building would be the Microdome. This would be a new and more effective method of displaying your smallest animal species, which is important for improving the game overall. This would be an all-enclosed building with a small dome, similar to the old greenhouse structure from the first game. This attraction would have a series of amenity-style modifications, altering the external look and decorations of the building. You'd also be able to alter the colour of the building. You'd be able to decide on the design of the dome, either a Jurassic Park-like girder dome, a Jurassic World era glass dome, or a Biosyn-like mossy roof. The other thing you'd be able to modify is the internal habitat. You'd select one of the main biome types in-game: desert, alpine, temperate, or tropical. This would then fill the dome with a habitat that is based on those biomes. You would then directly breed species into the structure. The main limit here is that you'd only be able to have a maximum of 5 animals in each dome, making it similar to how the old aviary worked in the first game. You would be able to put any micro animals in here. Currently, that would include the Lystrosaurus, Morris intrepidus, Oviraptor, and Compy. Future micro animals would then be placeable in here. In order to view your animals, there would be a preset viewing area that would provide a view of the dome, again similar to the old aviary. In addition, there would be some new decorations with an original movie feel. This would include placeable Jurassic Park and Jurassic World gates that would come in both open and closed versions. There would also be a placeable Lost World style mobile base in both clean and destroyed versions, a return of the placeable small signs coming in more specific dinosaur types than before from the first game, a T-Rex skeleton statue, a John Hammond statue, and some new planters and fountains. What about new species? Well, again, this would be difficult as most of the actual species from the movies are already in game. There would therefore be new skins for some of these. The Jurassic Park 3 Brachiosaurus model, the Jurassic Park 3 male raptor model, and the Jurassic Park 3 Pteranodon model would be made variants, similar to how the Camp Cretaceous and Dominion animals are now variants, with the options to apply new colours and patterns to those models. Taking inspiration from the original books, a new model variation of the Dilophosaurus would also be added, which would take the form of an adult animal. There would also be the return of Nanosaurus, which was known as Othnielia in the book, and Microceratus for the new Microdome. There would also be new model variants of the T-Rex and Stegosaurus, introducing smaller baby versions of them into the game, but these would only be model differences, they wouldn't grow up. There would also be the addition of Ornitholestes from the Lost World novel. As a final reward for 5-starring the campaign's islands, the player would unlock a new camouflage skin for the Carnotaurus, inspired by the novels, a placeable InGen branded Chinook chopper as a decorative item, and a placeable Mr. DNA fountain. You would also unlock new film accurate maps for sandbox building in both the film built versions and empty versions. Following this expansion, it would be time for a brand new dinosaur pack and free update after another 3 months or so. Again, let's look at the free update. This free update would focus on adding model variation switching to more of the dinosaurs. The Feathered Rex would now be a new model, allowing new colours and patterns. The one-horned Carnotaurus would also be a model switch, as would the 93 Triceratops model. It would also add new era-specific versions of buildings with missing era-specific types. There would be the addition of new Biosyn/Facility era amenity designs and Malta era amenity. There would also be era variations added to the monorail stations and monorail vehicles, and some new Biosyn-inspired buildings for viewing galleries, towers, and lagoon galleries. This would basically complete our current building sets. The final part of the free update would be an expansion on the diets of the dinosaurs, with more being able to eat from the present insect feeders and the establishment of new omnivores. Struthiomimus and Archaeornithomimus would become omnivores. Dimorphodon would be able to eat from the insect feeders and the meat feeders and would no longer eat from the fish feeders. Now for the DLC. Now I have come up with many new pack ideas for the game. However, for this video I wanted to come up with something new, so I give you the Triassic era pack. This creature pack would introduce 4 new species. However, as part of all DLC dinosaur packs going forward now under my command, they would also include a couple of special gifts to make the packs more worthwhile getting. The 4 new species would consist of Platyosaurus, a large relative of sauropods and the first pro sauropod in game, which would have animations to allow it to eat from both high and low food sources. Staurikosaurus, one of the first dinosaurs, a small predator. Postosuchus, an archosaur carnivore, not a dinosaur. And Symbospondylus, a huge, supersized predatory ichthyosaur. In addition to these new species, there would be 2 special free gifts. The first would be a new placeable fountain that would have a large Plateosaurus statue in the centre. The second would be a new lagoon decoration featuring an overturned boat that would sit on the surface of the water. This would be a hint about a big future free update. Next up after this, it would be time for a large expansion around 6 months after I start at Frontier. Now, unusually, this large expansion would not launch with any free content, because the next free update would be very large. This might disappoint the community, but I would make it clear that it's to give them some incredible stuff that would naturally take more time to implement. More on that in a bit. The paid expansion then at this point in time would be called Dr. Wu's Journals, and would reintroduce the hybrids as well as expanding on the lore in the game. Let's start with the key part, the new missions, and I really do mean missions. Unlike other expansions that add new campaigns, this expansion would add several new maps that occur after the events of the game's current campaign. It would be introduced by Dr. Wu, who is discussing in a log entry how he laments having to work for Biosyn with their closed vision and desire for more money over anything more revolutionary. He reminisces on his time working for John Hammond and how he grew to respect him, and talks about how he regrets some of what happened after Jurassic Park, before ending with telling the player there are far more secrets out there to be discovered. You will then be catapulted into the first mission. This would take place on a new Isla Sorna map, which would be called Sorna 97. This would take place prior to the events of the Lost World movie, and would feature a recast Peter Ludlow, who is getting Dr. Wu to create a new small set of facilities in secret on Sorna for the creation and capture of new animals for a future San Diego park. The map itself will be based on what we see of the area in The Lost World and Jurassic Park 3, with a narrow forested valley. We would be introduced to new, small versions of some existing buildings, more on this in a moment, as we set up the new facilities. We would then be tasked with creating new raptors and other species for San Diego. You would then be tasked with creating the Spinosaurus, and Dr. Wu would explain the purpose of the Amalgam Project. Here, he would explain to Ludlow that it might be easier to merely remake dinosaurs that they have limited genetic material for, aiming to create an acceptable facsimile of the animal that the public would accept. Future Wu would explain that he never saw the Spinosaurus as a hybrid, as they weren't making a whole new animal, merely rebuilding a version of an existing one, similar to every species used in the parks. The mission would end with Wu explaining that after Ludlow's death, he had to go into hiding and the Spinosaurus was abandoned. He always believed that the Spinosaurus would become the dominant animal on the island due to its increased aggression and size, a fact that Alan Grant would prove correct in the movie. The next part of the mission would move time ahead, prior to and during the events of Jurassic World. You would return to the Sorna facilities, get them working again, and restart the Amalgam Project. The expansion would reintroduce the hybrids. Here you would create the Stegoceratops, then the Spinoraptor, by using some of the Spinosaurus DNA from capturing the animal. You would then finally create the genetic template for the Indominus Rex by gathering material from specific animals for it and injecting them into the genome using a similar mini-game that the Jurassic Park Legend update introduced. The final mission would be set in an alternative history. In this alternative future, Wu and Hodgkins's plans get exposed and they are both sent to prison. The Indominus Rex is euthanized and the park survives. However, Mount Sibo starts growing restless, and Masrani decides to move the park to a new island to save it. Here we work with Masrani, Dua, Deering and Owen to create a new park on Isla Sorna. This would expand the previous Sorna 97 map area to incorporate a new coastal part connected to the facilities with a tunnel. This would make it a unique split area map. The new coastal map would feature an open natural lagoon walled off for the Mosasaurus. This lagoon area would come pre-designed with stones and coral pre-built in it, so you wouldn't need to decorate it. You would then build the park, move the species over, and discover the secrets left behind by Dr. Wu. This would include the Ankylodocus with a remodel, a new hybrid, Paramoloch, and several new things you can add to the genomes of your animals, expanding the species that can camouflage, and even adding raptor-like quills to more species. The mission will end with Sibo's eruption and the new park on Sorna rising from the ashes. The expansion's new species would therefore include Stegoceratops, Spinoraptor, Paramoloch, and Ankylodocus. In addition, it would introduce several non-hybrid species, the giant pterosaur Hapsegopteryx to serve as another adstarchid, the small ceratopsian Protoceratops, which would come with a decorative frill and quills, and the feathered Archaeopteryx, which would come in parrot-inspired colours. 5-starring the final map would unlock special unique skins for the hybrids, a version of the Stegoceratops with the Nasutoceratops head matching concept art. There would be a version of the Spinoraptor with the Jurassic Park 3 Spinosaurus coloration, 2 new versions of the Indoraptor, one with camouflage and a white Indo-Rex skin, and a version with blues patterning, and the final thing would be a new skin for the Indominus Rex, making it look like the yellow and purple concept art. The expansion would also introduce a new building set called Small Park. This would feature smaller versions of all the main buildings. For example, a new, smaller incubation lab that is smaller than the huge hatchery but only has 2 incubation slots. They would be cheaper to build and run. These would be useful on smaller maps, as well as providing a first step in park creation during challenge mode. This set would also include guest structures like amenities and galleries. There would also be some new decorations added, probably at least a skeleton of the Indominus Rex as a statue, and maybe a few special fountains. If you are liking the sound of all this so far, let me know in the comments, and don't forget to give us a like and subscribe for more content from all of us at Triclaw Gaming. Now, the next DLC wouldn't be another pack, however, it would be a new supersized free update that we teased. In fact, this update would be so large it would be called the Deep Blue Update. The whole purpose of this update would be to greatly improve the functionality of the lagoons and the aquatic animals. There would be new animals added, new buildings, and new features, entirely for free. Firstly, there would be some new functionality to the lagoons added by a new amenity-style set of toggleable options that you select at a lagoon section. These would be formed by the following: depth, featuring standard, deep, or shallow. For reference, the shallow form would have the bottom of the tank reach the bottom of the windows used by the gallery. Watercolor, either standard, pelagic, which would be deep blue, a green tinged watercolor, and an almost crystal clear Mediterranean water. Seabed style, featuring standard, rocky, 100% sand, coral reef or kelp varieties, and external style. This would alter the outside of the structure, either standard, which would be base concrete, wood panels, textured concrete, or Jurassic World styled coloured panels. There would also be a colour selector available for these options. The next thing that would change is how lagoons can be viewed. A new type of path would be added, the tunnel. This would allow you to create straight line tunnels through lagoons or through aviaries that you could connect path to. You could build tunnels at any height. They would also serve as viewing areas, providing visibility. Next, the free update would add new viewing structures and alter some of the existing ones. The standard lagoon galleries would have 2 new functionalities added. An option for setting a timer for the galleries rising and lowering, so it would do it automatically, and the second would be an option to have floodlights surrounding the windows in your choice of colour. New buildings would be added, starting with the Lagoon Dome. This would essentially be a lagoon placeable viewing dome. There would be era-specific designs of this. There would be the Aquarium Gallery. This would be a normal viewing gallery with just windows that you could snap on below the water level. This would of course require the player to dig out surrounding terrain. We would also add windows. These would be external snappable windows that would reveal a portion of the lagoon from the outside. They would however only be decorative. The biggest new attraction that would be added is the submarine tour, a tour ride that would tour around your lagoons operating like any of the normal tours. There would also be new lagoon related structures. Resting banks. These would be sandbanks placeable on snap points that some species can use to rest and sleep on, small plesiosaurs for example. This would also provide sleeping space and terrain for future animal inclusions. They would, however, also represent a possible issue, as bigger animals would be able to get beached on them, needing rescue. Roofs. These would be flat or dome-like structures that you could build over lagoon sections to enclose a space or cover it, coming in various era versions. These would serve only a decorative purpose. New feeders, the kelp feeder and the swimming shark feeder. These would provide future feeding options for new animals and would allow large shark-feeding animals, like the mosasaur or chronosaur, to not have to leap out of the water every time to catch a shark. Lagoon walls. These would be buildable only in lagoons and take the form of thick netting walls that would form inside the lagoons. To make it easy to implement, these walls would follow the natural curves of the lagoon pieces that were connected together. There would also be an expansion to the decorations. Snappable external decorations would have some new additions with a biosyn flare and Malta inspired versions. There would be new internal pieces including sunken Jurassic Park gates, jeeps and some new large decorations including sunken ships, submarines, aircraft, large cave and rock formations, large reef and volcanic spire mounts, and a sunken innovation center and visitor centers for really big decorative additions under the new large tab. There would also be some decorations for placing on the surface of lagoons, including small desert islands, icebergs, floating boats, and similar. And as an additional placeable decoration structure, there would be 3 different types and shapes of aquarium. These large decorative structures would be like the fountains or current decorations that we have in the park, but would feature large tanks home to fish, coral and ammonites, placeable in the park wherever you like. Finally, the free update would give players 2 new species of animals for free. The first would be Archelon, a giant turtle that would eat the new kelp and rest on the new sandbanks. The second would be the nothosaurs from Camp Cretaceous that would also use the sandbars to rest and sit. The paid DLC section for this update would be the new Monsters of the Deep pack that would introduce 4 new species of lagoon animal and come with a new attraction as a gift. The new species would include Leedichthyes, a giant Jurassic era fish, but a gentle giant, Tanystropheus, a strange long-necked animal that would spend time on land but also swim in shallow waters, Mierosaurus, a pliosaur discovered in Germany that is basically a microscopic version of Liopleurodon, only half the size, and finally, the big bad of this pack, Dunkleosteus, the huge armoured fish that would definitely be a fan favourite. The special attraction offered here in the pack would be a new super-sized lagoon gallery. Coming in Jurassic World, Jurassic Park and Facility eras, this huge gallery would be a large semicircular snappable that would basically take up 1/2 of a lagoon section, inspired by the structure we see in Jurassic World. Now this would lead us to the final DLC, which would be placed at the very end of the game's development, which I'm going to assume would take place in around 12 to 14 months. For me, this would have to be something massive and special. It would be slightly more expensive than the other DLCs, but it would be worth it. The free content here would be called the Security Update, and would feature several new structures in their own tab, as well as new functionality. Security cameras, which you could use to keep an eye on your park, and if they detected breakouts, they would automatically deploy any ACU team that you set to the camera. They would passively slow down your sabotage bar too. Drone defenses, an automated drone launching station that would launch drones to automatically tranquilize escaped dinosaurs. You could also take control of these yourself to knock out escapees. These could also be applied to the cameras, but unlike your ACU teams, these drones would also be able to be directly linked to specific enclosures. Repulsion emitters. Working like the invisible fences, these would create circular fields around them where dinosaurs would be unable to go, driving them away. A Jurassic Park Operation Genesis inspired building. New functionality would then be added to the ranges, hatcheries and defences. Firstly, rangers would get the option to fire lethal rifle rounds to kill escaping dinosaurs. While effective, this would come at a great cost to your park's reputation, essentially resetting your star rating. Next, hatcheries would get the ability to add lethal genes into a dinosaur's genetics that could be activated to kill the animal after a period of time, similar to the lysine contingency. Slower acting than the lethal rifle rounds, they would also negatively affect your park's rating, but not at such a massive level. Fences would gain proper electrification. All electric fences would now, after a dinosaur hits it, make the dinosaur run away from the fence, harming it slightly. Repeated strikes by unhappy dinosaurs would result in more serious injuries. Now on to the paid expansion, and this would be called the Next Evolution update, and would feature a massively new game mode, new species, a whole new building set, and more. So let's start with the new game mode. This would be called the Personalized Campaign. In this mode, you would create your very own Jurassic World Evolution 1 style campaign. You would start by selecting 5 maps from all of the non-square maps you currently have access to in-game. You would select the order these maps unlock in and the unlocking requirements, whether it's based on a particular star rating, for example. Next, you would determine the campaign's era from several settings, either Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, the new Evolved era, more on this later, all of them, or a chronological mode where the timeline would move onwards with each map. Biosyn, Facility and Mortar era buildings would be available regardless. Next, you would select the animals allowed from several settings. Jurassic Park animals only, Jurassic World animals only, carnivores only, herbivores only, or all of them mixed. Next, you would determine your difficulty based on your starting cash, the weather conditions, tax, public relations difficulty, contract difficulty, and rating difficulty. You could select preset easy, medium, hard, and Jurassic modes, or personalize each individual setting to come up with your own difficulty. Then you would play through the whole thing like the Jurassic World Evolution 1 campaign. You would also have the transport ship system added here to allow you to transport dinosaurs around. There would also be a degree of procedural generation here, including with the contract system that would see you completing tasks for all of the Jurassic characters. These characters would be divided into groups: Paleo Life, Business, and Scientific. Tech tree and species unlocks would depend on your reputations with these groups, like the first game. However, at the end of each map, the individual character with the highest reputation would give you a unique campaign unlock, which would be randomized. That way, no two people's campaigns would ever be identical. It would be the closest thing to an unending game mode for the game. To aid in this mode, the DLC would add 5 new maps to the game. 5 maps from the original Jurassic World Evolution 1 remade for the new game. Isla Matanceros would return, a wonderful waterfall surrounded map using the tropical biome. It would also feature a unique pre-made attraction, a large series of viewing towers and galleries built around that odd little mountain in the middle. Isla Tacaño would return, a temperate biome map with its central large lagoon, which would be natural and you could use for your aquatics. Isla Sorna, the huge Biosyn biome map with its central plateau, and it would come with pre-built small facilities for you. Isla Pena would come back, a tight, narrow landmass with the new volcanic biome, a mix of ash volcanic soils and such. And the Isla Tacaño research facility, the small secret Doctor Wu testing ground, which would also feature the new volcanic biome and a natural lagoon. On top of all of this would be the brand new building set, the Evolved era. This would be a building set taking inspiration from modern architectural buildings and modern art, with plenty of glass and metal and wood in the structures. Decorations would feature modern art sculptures with a dinosaur inspiration, and it would be a tourist-focused era, not a facility one. There would also be new fences added, such as glass wall fence, low height concrete, and low height cable fencing. As a show-off type of wall, there would be the new laser wall and laser gates. That would be a very high security fence type that dinosaurs could never escape from, However, they would eat your power supply and cause serious injuries to dinosaurs that did try to escape. On top of all of this, there would be the new animal species, no less than 8 new species to feature in this pack. There would be 4 new land animals: the armoured sauropod Saltosaurus with its armoured back, the medium carnivore Neovenator from the Isle of Wight, which would have many distinctive patterns, the decorative Regaliaceratops, which would have feathers and decorative frills, and the large carnivore Daspletosaurus, which would also be feathered. There would be 2 new pterosaurs, the long-tailed coastal Rhamphorhynchus and the strange crested Nyctosaurus, and 2 new aquatics, the small-sized ichthyosaur Ophthalmosaurus, whose animations would feature breaching out of the water surface and would be friendly to many other aquatic animals, and the small mosasaur Hyalosaurus, a small member of the family which would have playful animations and also be friendly around other species of aquatics. This would be the end of the game's development cycle and thus the end of any more DLCs. As a result, this would be quite a costly DLC, probably closer to the £20 mark than others. Now that I have laid out what my Jurassic World Evolution 2 development would look like, one final question remains. With Jurassic World Evolution 2 developed, do I think a Jurassic World Evolution 3 is needed? Well, that's a question for another video. Let me know in the comments which of my DLCs you would most want to see get added to the game, and what do you think of my plan for the future? Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, stay safe, and goodbye.